The dissolution of the Order of the Knights Templar stands as one of the most dramatic and least anticipated events of the European High Middle Ages. It represented not merely the end of a military monastic order, but a pivotal moment that signaled the transition from a decentralized feudal system to a model of consolidated national monarchy. The analysis of these events requires a deep examination of not only the accusations leveled against the Templars, but also the comprehensive fiscal and geopolitical context of the French kingdom at the beginning of the 14th century. The order was founded in 1119 as a response to the need to protect pilgrims on the route to the Holy Land after the First Crusade. Its dual status, monks and knights, was sanctioned by Pope Honorius II in 1129 at the Council of Troyes. This hybrid nature quickly transformed into a powerful institution. The papal bull Omni Datum Optimum, 1139, granted the Templars unprecedented autonomy. They were exempt from all jurisdiction except the popes, were permitted to collect their own tithes, and were relieved of tax liabilities to local bishops and kings. Subsequently, through their unrivaled logistical network spanning the Crusader routes, the order evolved into Europe's first transnational banking system. Their commanderies, situated from Britain to the Middle East, functioned as branches allowing monarchs, nobility, and merchants to deposit funds in one location, e.g. Paris, and withdraw them in another, e.g. Acre, using a system of special bills of exchange. By the end of the 13th century, the Templar order was not merely a creditor. It was the custodian of royal treasuries, including that of France, and the principal financial intermediary between European states. This financial dominance, combined with their military prowess until the fall of Acre in 1291, rendered them excessively powerful, and their independence from secular authority became politically unacceptable to the burgeoning national states. King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair, Philippe le Bel, pursued a policy aimed at the radical centralization of power and the fiscal strengthening of the royal treasury. His reign was marked by constant financial difficulties caused by protracted wars in Flanders and tense relations with England. To finance his ambitions, Philip IV repeatedly resorted to dubious and severe economic measures. Coin debasement, the reduction of the precious metal content in coinage, leading to inflation and economic instability. Persecution of Jews, 1306. The complete expulsion of the Jewish community from France, confiscation of their property, and cancellation of debts owed to them. Persecution of Lombard bankers. Similar measures against Italian financiers who were significant creditors. Thus, the Templars became Philip's final and greatest target. He personally owed the order substantial sums, and their enormous landholdings and liquid assets constituted a tempting prize. In Philip's view, the accusation of the Templars was not a religious act. It was a legal mechanism for economic expropriation and the elimination of the last significant center of papal authority within French territory. To justify such an unprecedented attack on a papal order, Philip needed accusations that would resonate with the profound religious fears of society. The charges brought against the Templars were masterfully fabricated, combining elements of heresy previously used against the Cathars with insinuations of sexual corruption. The main points of accusation included denial of Christ and spitting on the cross, allegedly performed during secret initiation rituals, worship of the idol Baphomet. This accusation, purely a product of fantasy, supposed a secret form of pagan idolatry, homosexuality, and sodomy. Accusations of violating their vow of chastity and moral depravity, violation of the seal of confession, the performance of secret absolution by their own chaplains. These accusations first emerged from a former Templar who had been expelled from the order, named Escon de Florian, who was then in a royal prison. Philip IV utilized the inquisitorial apparatus, which was entirely under his control, to legitimize these fabricated crimes. The execution of Philip IV's plan demonstrated an unprecedented level of centralized state organization. On the night of October 13, 1307, a Friday, sealed orders from royal executors, sergeants, were simultaneously opened by all local officials across France. These orders contained detailed instructions for the arrest of every Templar and the detection and confiscation of all the order's assets. The majority of the knights, caught completely by surprise, were arrested without resistance. Grand Master Jacques de Molay, who was in Paris at the time, was also swiftly captured. The prisoners were immediately transferred to the jurisdiction of the Royal Inquisition, where widespread torture was applied. Inquisitors employed methods such as la question, stretching on the rack, and, crucially, the application of fire, roasting feet over a fire, known as testum or booting. Under the influence of excruciating torment, a significant portion of the Templars provided confessions, including de Molay himself, who admitted to spitting near the cross to avoid torture. These testimonies, extracted under duress, became the legal foundation for the official papal investigation that Philip successfully imposed. Against the backdrop of mass arrests and forced confessions, the resistance at Château de Gisors became a unique instance of rejection of royal authority. The fortress of Gisors, strategically located in Normandy, was one of the strongest castles to survive the Anglo-French conflicts. It possessed a massive 12th century cylindrical keep built during the reign of Henry II of England and was ideally suited for prolonged defense. A small group of Templars, estimated by various accounts to number fewer than 50 men, retreated to this fortress and refused to acknowledge the jurisdiction of the royal sergeants. Their action, which began in early 1308 and lasted several months, had no military strategic objective beyond the symbolic declaration of ideological warfare against unjust persecution. The siege was typical of the era. The royal army surrounded the fortress, circumvallation, cut off supply lines, and likely employed siege engines such as mangonels or smaller counterweight trebuchets to breach the outer walls. The psychology of the defense. The resilience of the Gisors Templars, in contrast to de Molay's capitulation, indicates a deep internal motivation. They believed in their righteousness, viewing the royal assault as a betrayal of Christian ideals. The defense was sustained by military discipline, experience, and likely sufficient reserves of provisions, prepared beforehand in a fortress that may have been used as a treasury. However, the inevitable effect of attrition, starvation, disease, lack of ammunition, ultimately led to its fall. Following the capture of Gisors, the royal authorities acted according to political imperative. All surviving Templars were executed. Crucially, historical records emphasize the absence of any confessions or pleas for clemency from the Gisors defenders, which served as a direct refutation of Philip's propaganda campaign based on confessions obtained through torture. The role of Pope Clement V was central and tragic in the history of the order. Clement V, French by birth and the first pope of the Avignon papacy period, was effectively dependent on Philip IV. Although he initially protested against the arbitrary arrest of the order by secular authorities, he quickly succumbed under Philip's threat to bring posthumous charges of heresy against the deceased Pope Boniface VIII, which would have undermined the legitimacy of the entire papal line. In 1312, at the Council of Vienne, Pope Clement V announced the dissolution of the order with his bull Vox in Excelso. He declared that although the guilt of the Templars had not been fully proven due to suspicion regarding the credibility of the confessions, the order was dissolved ex ortra desosat apostolicae provisionis intuitu, out of apostolic prudence, for the purpose of preventing scandal and maintaining peace in the Church. This was a political, not a theological decision. The order's assets, by papal decree, were supposed to be transferred to the Order of the Hospitallers, Knights of St. John, but Philip IV effectively retained a significant portion of the movable property and lands, compensating himself, in his own words, for the costs of the investigation. In 1314, Jacques de Molay and Geoffroy de Charnay, preceptor of Normandy, who had retracted their earlier confessions, were burned at the stake in Paris. Legend holds that de Molay, before his death, summoned Philip IV and Clement V to appear before the judgment of God within a year, which indeed occurred. This became the final, iconic moment of their history. The siege of Gisors is inextricably linked to the legend of the Templar Treasure. The popular narrative posits that in the final days of the siege, when resistance became futile, selected knights utilized a network of secret subterranean passages, crypts, tunnels used for water supply and escape, to remove the most valuable assets, gold reserves, sacred relics, perhaps even the Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, though this is pure mythology, and the Order's archives. The testimony of Roger Lomoy. In the mid-20th century, this legend gained new traction thanks to Roger Lomoy, the custodian of Gisors Castle. Molay claimed to have discovered an entrance to a network of underground chambers beneath the keep, including a large vaulted hall he anecdotally referred to as the chapel, and walled-up niches that he believed contained the treasure. In 1944, he allegedly found 19 iron sarcophagi and 30 chests. However, scientific analysis of these claims remains skeptical. While underground galleries at Gisors do exist and are part of medieval defensive engineering, none of Molay's discoveries were properly documented or verified by independent archaeological experts in a manner consistent with contemporary methodology. Later geophysical surveys, including the use of ground-penetrating radar (GPR), confirmed the presence of anomalies in the subsoil but could not identify large caches filled with metal. Most likely, the Templar treasure was primarily liquid, gold, silver, documents, and was either successfully transported to their commanderies outside France, e.g. Portugal or Scotland, or was fully confiscated by the royal authorities. The dissolution of the Templar Order was a key event in the history of European statehood. It was a ruthless yet effective act of royal authority that demonstrated the ability of the national monarchy to decisively defeat even the most powerful transnational organization protected by the papacy. Strengthening royal authority. Philip IV successfully asserted the principle that spiritual authority was subordinate to secular authority within French territory, paving the way for absolutism. Legal precedent. The methods used to create the accusations and conduct the trial, involving royal lawyers and the Inquisition, established a precedent for the manipulation of law in state interests. Mythological legacy. The unwavering resistance at Gisors and the public burning of de Molay created an aura of martyrdom, which combined with unconfirmed rumors of treasure led to an endless stream of mystical and conspiracy theories that continue to influence popular culture. Thus, Château de Gisors functions as a powerful historical microcosm, a place where the Templars' financial power collided with the king's fiscal necessity, where ideological resilience met royal violence, and where historical reality was inextricably woven with an undying myth.